Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Before I start with the study, I just want to say a couple of things. One is I want to thank Digiday and the team, specifically Evan, Melinda, Annie, and Deanna, who helped put this study together for us, with us. We interviewed about a dozen publishers one-on-one. We had 172 publishers that responded to the survey that we sent out. So thank you all as publishers for working with us on this, and our marketing team as well. The other thing, if you're not familiar with our company, Adslot, we are focused on the programmatic direct space, and I think Jack and Pete kind of set things up pretty well for me in the sense that programmatic direct, I believe, obviously I'm pretty biased about it, but I do believe that this is the most important sector in our industry right now, because 85 to 88%, depending on whose figures you're looking at, of the display media in our industry is on the guaranteed side. This is where advertisers and agencies get their engagement and their best inventory and custom deals as well too. Publishers obviously make the most net revenue from it, and this is what keeps great content production to happen so that consumers can have a free experience online. So it's very important. That's the exact sector that we're focused on at Adslot. We're publicly traded in Australia. We have about 75 employees. And our whole focus is programmatic direct, which means automation, integration, protocols on the programmatic side. Direct means guaranteed orders, known advertiser, known site, known position, a set of impressions that are for sale, not necessarily, actually never an RTB call of any type. There's no audience cookie-based buying that happens. So this is the real business that we all do. This is where publishers make their money from. And today what we're going to do is look at the study that we went through with publishers and to learn about exactly what is the cost of this. What is the cost to transact these RFPs, these transactional RFPs primarily, that come across the desk all the time. So the bottlenecks exist for sales teams, executives, and operations in very different ways through the sales funnel and the process with the RFPs that are actually live as well, right? So operations gets bogged down in the middle of the process. Sales is actually throughout the process kind of bogged down and involved in the deal. That's not necessarily by design. We had a lot of comments pretty much from every single publisher that the sales team was too involved in fulfillment, getting their hands into everything because they want to keep that customer engagement happening. So there's some things to think about there. Executives mostly are involved in the very beginning of the process and then move on after that. So we hear this type of stuff pretty often. The sales team needs to be selling, and they get involved in account management. It was a very common theme that we heard. Another pitfall we see is that there really isn't a tiered service at a lot of publishers. Most publishers are dealing with a $5,000 or a $50,000 deal the exact same way. The exact same service level is associated to that particular advertiser for that spend. And that really doesn't make sense, right? You really want to bucket your service levels depending on the amount of ad spend or potential ad spend from a large advertiser. What exactly is the opportunity for them long term, and how do you want to service that particular customer? So another, kind of the main key piece is that the transactional RFPs that come across, which we have kind of estimated is about 65 to 70% of the overall display revenue that's in our industry, are very time consuming. There's a number of areas that publishers get bogged down with this. And for us, the study that we did, we looked at the average publisher in the study was about 10 to 50 million unique users. They were spending about 22 hours on these particular transactional RFPs. And then the business was a $10 to $50 million revenue business. So that was the kind of focus for the study. And here's some of the results of that. So 77% of publishers respond to transactional RFPs. It's 40% on average for the publishers we actually surveyed of their business and the revenue that they see. They responded on average about 23 RFPs per month. So they receive more than that, but 23 get responded to. Of the 23, 8 of those actual RFPs are won. And of those 8 that are won, 2 of them are lost like mid-campaign. And we all know with transactional RFPs that come through, you basically can lose a deal at any moment. You're working on a performance basis or some type of engagement maybe basis for that particular advertiser, but you're kind of on the hook to make that work, right? So this is basically a 25% attrition rate. as it's associated to the one business. So 25% of the business that you win on transactional RFPs is lost. So that's a problem. It's a problem when you look at the number of hours and the costs associated to actually doing the business on those RFPs. Because you're planning for all 23. You only won 8, you're running all 8, you're maintaining all 8, and then 2 of them are actually lost midstream, but you're doing all post-campaign reconciliation, billing, and everything for those 2 that you lost as well too, right? So this ends up being a tremendous amount of hours. Now, some of these numbers to you might seem extremely high, and I mean, I knew it was a very expensive and time-consuming process before we did the study, but I dug in pretty deeply once I saw these numbers to be like, is that real? So I literally looked at a lot of responses myself, and these are the actual numbers from a number of publishers that we ended up surveying. So I mean, you can see here, I mean, there's a 598 hours a month is spent on pre-planning. There's a figure issue there. 168 on flighting, and then 188 on post-campaign, like the campaign's over. So the real bogged down moment is really on the pre-planning side and the campaign planning side. So there's a nice one-sheet infographic that's available out there. We'll also kind of send that to everybody who's an attendee here, so you can have this information. But this is a tremendous amount of time, energy, and money that's spent. In a lot of cases, we also got responses where it wasn't really clear who was involved in pre-planning and creating the media plan. There wasn't necessarily a set a team for that. Different people were kind of jumping in at different times, salespeople, media planners, account managers, operations, and kind of fulfilling the RFP to be just created and sent back to the advertiser or agency. So these are the numbers that matter. $350,000 worth of revenue coming in monthly from 23 RFPs that responded to, 8 that were won, 2 of those 8 were lost at some point. 18% of this is the essential cost of sales, right? This is what the publisher had to spend to essentially respond to these 23 RFPs. Now, this does not include sales commissions, so it's 18% just for all that flighting, planning, negotiations, maintenance. It does include billing and anything to do with finance and reconciliation, but it does not include sales commissions. So we know that there's about a 28 to 30% cost in our industry to transact guaranteed orders. And this is why programmatic direct is literally the most important thing that we need to focus on. That is where the money is at, right? So this is just a simple math thing. We've got to figure out a way to take 28, 30% and drive that down to 5%, 10%. We're probably not going to get close to television, 2%, but we can get down a lot further than 28, 30%. So 1,600 hours were spent in 1 month essentially responding to setting, flighting, and live campaigns for transactional RFPs, and then the post-campaign process that happens with that too. So, you know, we have the study available. I want to kind of touch on one other thing that's around this study that we did, is that we spent a lot of time with publishers who are interested in the programmatic direct space, and Pete from Business Insider was talking about it as well too. And last night I was talking to Bill Murray over at weather.com, and you know, I urge everybody, not just with programmatic direct, but with other areas in our industry, to test and learn quickly. You know, do something with low friction and low risk, but get involved quickly. See what's happening, see what works. We're in a place of programmatic direct where it's still a kind of a market development stage as a sector. So we basically need people to get on the plane. We need seats to be filled. We want buyers and sellers to come in and be part of this new area of growth, which essentially will drive more net revenue to the publishers, should put more money towards media. So for buyers, it's definitely going to drive more performance and engagement for what they're looking for, and essentially lower the cost of doing business on these orders that really are kind of high touch, high value. We think we can move them over to a low touch, high value for transactional RFPs, so that as publishers, you can focus on the larger custom deals, the integrated sponsorships, the offline, online media buys, and just driving better relationships with your key advertisers. And that's really where you want to spend your time, right? So that's really it. Any questions about the study or this particular sector of programmatic direct? No? Okay. Thanks for your time.